Hello and welcome to the PhD Life Raft podcast. I'm Emma Brzezinski and today I am delighted to be joined by not one but two guests because it is our Christmas special and we're going to be thinking about how to handle the holidays as a PhD student. So we talk about tiredness, we talk about guilt, but we also talk about how to make the most of this time. And Rachel Hopkins, who is a first year PhD student, talks about taking time for reflection. She talks about being in community over this holiday period. And Chloé Bradwell, who is in her third year of a part-time PhD, talks about how caring for her daughter is shaping her plans for the Christmas period. So this is actually the last episode in season 1. We will be back in January. But meanwhile, grab a mince pie and enjoy. See, look, today I've got my props with me. I've got jingle bells because today we are going to be talking about Christmas and going into those Christmas holidays. And I have got two gorgeous guests with me today. So double, because it's Christmas, double the guests. So Chloé and Rachel, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so excited to have you here. Rachel, we've been working together on the TECHNE Breathing Space programme, and Chloé, you reached out and we were talking about being a mum while you're doing your PhD, and I said, please come and talk to us around Christmas too, because they're all that you need to sort of balance in the holiday time and kind of being a PhD student, and you both said yes, so thank you so much for that. So we're gonna talk about how to handle the holidays, really. But first of all, I always ask for you to just say a little bit about your story. So, Chloé, could you say a little bit to us about who you are, your PhD journey so far?
Sure. So I'm doing a part-time PhD in drama at Exeter, and I'm researching basically the social and cultural value of performing art with people living with dementia. So I'm just I'm trying to basically show that people who have dementia have a lot to give to society, and it's been a bit of a journey really to get onto my PhD. But I started to become interested in my topic during my master when I took on an evaluation position for an art project between care home residents living with dementia and local school children. So I remember that my job was mainly about trying to evidence how the project had a positive impact on the health and well-being of residents. But it was also very clear to me that the older adult had impacted the life of those children in a really beautiful and positive way. And I guess I just really felt an urge to talk about this. But unfortunately, at the time, I had to take on what people would call a real job.
Okay.
So something, something that would pay the bill. So for a couple of years, I had to leave the arts and I started to work in marketing. But I was also continuing to do some volunteering on the side in care home. And I was kind of building this plan in my head for a PhD. And one day, while I was working this absolutely, it was an absolutely awful job for a fashion company. And it just sounded very glamorous, but it really wasn't. It just clicked. And I went to my boss and I said to him, that's it, I'm quitting. That's just not what I want to do with my life. So I left. He thought I was crazy at the time, but I took on a full-time job as an activity manager in a care home because I just felt like I really needed to spend some time working practically in the field. And I mean, this role evolved from this activity manager position into a research associate position. I started to also train care staff to work creatively with residents who had more profound form of dementia. And yeah, eventually I applied for a PhD, and here we are, and I've loved every minute of it.
Amazing. And I love that you kept the faith and you kept going, and now you're there. Gorgeous. Thank you. Rachel, I know you've got a gorgeous story to tell too. Tell us your story.
But I would love to, but I firstly want to say, Chloe, what an amazing journey to have gone on and to be on, and really noble as well. I think it's a wonderful thing when you kind of, I similarly had an epiphany where I was like, no, this is not the day job, and paying the bills isn't the be all and end all, and there's something else that that's calling your soul. And I think it's wonderful that you fed that. So that's lovely.
Yeah.
I'm in my first year doing a PhD in screenwriting at Royal Holloway, full-time and TECHNE funded. It's my third time at Royal Holloway. I did a bachelor's in media arts and specialised in screenwriting graduating in 2007. And then I went on to work for two of the largest and leading theatrical agencies in the UK, and looked after writers and directors in film, TV and theatre. And while I was there, I completed a master's in screenwriting for film and TV as well, also at Royal Holloway. So I just love it so much. I love that campus. Went back, so now I'm doing, love being amongst the trees, and
beautiful.
So now I'm doing my PhD there too, and back with the media arts department, and looking at sort of screen narrative of love between humans and robots, and whether that it can be part of the debate, sort of the socio-ethical impact of human robot interactions. So all sorts of lots of bleeps and bloops. And I get to watch films for homework.
It's just a fascinating subject matter. But again, I also love that your story, like you say, there's a real overlap in terms of Chloe's story too, in terms of going into the workplace, working in what some people would think, is very glamorous, exciting environment, but actually saying, no, I want to get back to the research. That's my heart. That's what I want to do. And I think
absolutely.
I think for both of you, I'm really interested in hearing then, as you come back into this, you've both had experience in the workplace. Not that PhD isn't the workplace. I think I'm trying to think of a better way of phrasing that, but you know what I mean.
The industry.
Industry. Yes, that's a good word. So you both have experience in industry, and so of course you have that experience of kind of the kind of work-life balance, or trying to get a work-life balance. So we're going to talk then about taking holiday from the PhD, because as we know, there's a lot of guilt around this. I think the difficulty with the PhD, and lots of people talk about that, is when do I take a break? Things can become very blurred, because it's like you just said, Rachel, in terms of like watching films is my homework. Actually, watching films is something that you would love doing anyway, I presume. So it's kind of when is it work? When isn't it work?
Right.
So talk to me about this, people. How are you going to approach Christmas? What's your plan?
Chloe, do you want to go first, or shall I? Or
go ahead.
Well, I was as a sort of a newbie on the PhD journey, just coming to the end of the first term. I personally wasn't really, I guess I was quite naive and thought it was just going to be me and my books for 3 years.
Right.
And so sort of starting the induction and all the amazing training on offer from both college and TECHNE was sort of, I was like a kid in a sweet shop and signing up for everything and involved in everything, and quickly realised there was an element of overwhelm happening and had to sort of assess things. Certainly there's been a pretty steep we hit the ground running on a really steep learning curve, I think. I've certainly felt that from myself and my sort of first year colleagues. And I'm on, one thing that COVID has done for us is that it's brought us together as a community in a way that I'm not sure I would have managed in normal times.
It's really interesting, actually, isn't it?
yeah, like I'm in like 4 different chat groups, so everyone's sort of going, and you know,
Amazing.
it's coming to the end of term, and everyone's saying, oh, you know, how we got on, you know, how are we doing, checking in,
I love that.
and it's great, and you know, at least one of them's just for well-being, and so
Gorgeous.
it's really nice to have all those different overlaps. But everybody is saying, you know, at least I'm sure, at least on each of the groups, someone's said, I'm ready for the break.
Right. Yes.
And it's whether you need. I've been thinking about that because, as you said, there's that element of guilt, and I definitely fall foul of that. Like I feel really guilty when I'm not working, but I'm aware that if you do that, you will just burn out, and it's not helpful in the long run. So I'm just trying to think about ways, and I've been sort of musing on things, but trying not to dwell in terms of how we. If you need a break from the work, absolutely trust your gut, you know, put down your pen and grab a mince pie, sit on the sofa and in your pajamas and a paper hat and eat Quality Street. That's great. But
Amazing.
It may also be taking a break from the way in which you work,
right,
and reassessing how you've worked over the last term, and may want to change things and tweak things, whether it's your physical space like your desk, or if it's maybe your sort of time management or something like that. So it could be a time for reflection in a way of not, you know, like, what have I done over 2020, like when it's coming up to, you know, midnight on Christmas Eve, but just sort of gently with yourself and kindly going, okay, I'm giving myself this time where I don't have to be in the training sessions or having supervisions. Maybe I'll use this time as sort of a holistic self-help sort of little bubble where it feels safe to reassess how you've worked and start fresh in the new year.
I love that. I love that in terms of the change of pace, allowing yourself a change of pace. And just picking up on what you said there about guilt, because guilt is massive. And guilt, as we know, is often, well, it's always about a kind of standard, that you're not meeting a standard, either a standard that other people, that's kind of a moral standard, or a standard from outside, or a standard you're setting yourself. And that actually can be really worth checking in with, for example, what the discretionary days are from your university if you're kind of worried about taking a break. I know certainly at Royal Holloway, they've given extra discretionary days this year because of COVID, and that what everybody's been through, that there's a recognition that extra rest is needed. So if you need that kind of outside sanction, have a look at that, because often it's at least a week and a half that people are getting off, and you can allow yourself that. Chloé, tell us where you're at in terms of this planning for Christmas holidays.
Well, I do agree with a lot of what you say, Rachel. And, you know, I also, like, I'm now in my 3rd year of part-time PhD, but I remember this very first year also being very overwhelmed and going crazy on all the training and opportunities. I mean, I think in the first 6 months of my PhD, I went on a training trip to the US for 5 weeks, and I was
amazing.
You know, every opportunity, I was just going for it and taking everything I could. And obviously, a year in, I felt pregnant, and now I have a 2-year-old, so it's looking very different. And as you mentioned as well, it's about being able to say no.
Yes.
Yes.
And think actually, I probably don't need to take 300 training course on how to write an article, or I probably don't.
Totally.
But it's I would say that my notion of guilt, talking about guilt, has really shifted since I had my daughter.
Right.
So before my PhD, before to have my daughter, my PhD was my baby. Right. And I feel very guilty if I didn't work on it, if I took some time off. But now my daughter is my priority. And I just also want to make sure that I'm spending some quality time with her, especially now that she's 2 and she starts to understand what Christmas is about. It's just very exciting.
Yes, and magic.
So this year, and you see what I mean, Emma.
Yes.
And I think that this year what's very different is that, so before every year, I would really be working a lot on my PhD during the Christmas holiday. And even when my little one was a baby, we would go to my parents in France because for me it was the opportunity to have childcare. So my parent would be spoiling a rotund and I would be, managing to write maybe like a chapter or just do some work. But this year, obviously, it's not possible because of COVID. And my daughter is 2 weeks of nursery over the Christmas break. So this is dictating my holiday in a way. She's off for 2 weeks. So I've decided that I would shamelessly take 2 weeks off.
Brilliant.
And
yes.
I will do nothing but having fun with her and my husband. I will be eating chocolate. I will be relaxing just because I think that I deserve it. And it's been a really difficult year for everyone. We all need the rest and the break. And actually, I kind of think to myself, if I don't take this break now, I'm not going to be good and productive in January. And I think that my two supervisors are really great with that. They always encourage me to take some break. And they always say to me, look, actually, sometimes you need to let things set for a little while. And it's actually being creative and productive to do nothing because you refresh and you have a different perspective on things. So I'm looking forward to do that. And I'm looking forward to also have a lot of fun with my little one.
Gorgeous. And yes,
amazing.
We've talked a lot about, and I'm going to talk about Alex Pang again because I love him, about rest and how, for both of you have said that this time of rest, recuperation, but actually that really is setting you up for the new year, setting you up for the next phase of work, that actually rest is a really productive thing to do. And if people haven't heard the episode with Alex, I would totally recommend that, and also recommend the book because I think it's brilliant. So any thoughts then so we've got playing, that's a big one, eating chocolate, awesome, obviously. Any other, and that sense of kind of reflecting, I love that sense of this is a sort of special space, and as you said, Rachel, away from the busyness of what might be being organised. Anything else that you're looking forward to over the holiday period?
Just taking time, I think. Not being in a rush, because being in a PhD is actually, it's project management.
Yes.
And as Rachel mentioned, when you start, you think that it's going to be you with your book for 3 years, but actually you are managing a lot of very different projects, and very often you have to also teach, and it's just so much. So I think just like taking time and just taking a break to focus on yourself, on your loved one, is going to be, that's going to be lovely.
I totally agree with Chloe about taking that break to focus on yourself. And, it's so easy when you're deep in the thick of research and study to kind of put off the sort of life admin things that you really need to do that actually will support you in your study. Like, for example, I've got a cracked phone screen, which I've, not updated because I'm scared I'll lose something and it will stress me out when I'm trying to study, or I haven't gone to the opticians for over a year to get my prescription done, because I'm like, well, I can't be without my spectacles, when I should be reading.
Yes.
So, and, it's things like that, which actually you must allow yourself. And it's so important to be kind to yourself. And I'm not, I'm a huge cheerleader for other people. It's like my thing. And I find it very difficult to cheerlead for myself. Yes. But this is a time of year when you can be, it is not true for everyone, I understand that, but you can be in the bosom of your family, and you can, or your friends, even if remotely. And I think it's really important that we support each other, especially fellow researchers in the community, whether you check in for your with your groups, or you do like a Zoom mulled wine affair or something like that, or a cheese and Bailey's night on MS Teams, whichever you prefer, and just check in with people, check in with yourself, because I think I think, and also to share, just as this podcast is doing, to share the things that help us get through any periods of doubt, whether that seeps in over Christmas or not. If you're feeling tough on yourself, that you're not studying, you can reach out to people. And I'm every time I'm really struggling with something, I reach out and I find out that other people just are going through the same thing, but can it help be your cheerleader as well, which is really heartening. And something that's been really great about this process is that, you know, especially when I know that, you know, I was listening to your podcast about the imposter phenomenon, and it's so it you know, it really rings true with so many people, that I think if we can take the time to let, as Chloé said, to let things settle, and to also to reflect and to talk to each other, I think that's a really good use of the time.
I love that. And I think it's really important to remember that, because especially this year, there are people who are feeling especially isolated. They're not able to travel home. They're not able to be with the people that they love. And so I just think that spirit of the season, isn't it, in terms of reaching out, supporting each other, that is such an important thing to be mindful of. Thank you for reminding us of that.
Yes, I just think that when you have a problem, and they say, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved, but if you are reaching out with someone and sharing the solution, it's a solution doubled. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you can it's like it can be a hub of well-being resource.
It's a solution doubled. I'm writing that down. I love that. And I also think what you were talking about there, in terms of kind of getting all those things done that are going to make a big difference, and how gorgeous does it feel when you have cleared the life admin stuff. Ticking those things off brings me so much pleasure.
Yeah, and even if the list, we all know that the list is a you know, a mile long, and it lasts for a year, and things come off and come on. But even if you get 2 things off that list, that you know, that macro list, it feels brilliant.
Yes, it is a Christmas gift to yourself. I love it. So at the end of the episode, I always ask a very unfair question in terms of asking for a top tip. So that's what I'm going to do. So if you, what are your top tips for people as they're coming into this holiday season?
I think that my key top tip is just to remind yourself that having a break is actually part of the PhD process, and it can actually help to be much more productive. So it's just good to leave idea to set a little, as we talked about, and also mainly that it's okay to say no to things. Yes,
totally.
Thank you, Rachel.
I would say if you know, absolutely, I am totally of the perspective that trust your instinct. If you need a break, you take it. You know, I'm really lucky to have I was paired with a fantastic postgraduate mentor, and earlier in the term we postponed a meeting because she said she was going to take a break for a week, and I thought, wow, if this amazing, inspiring, accomplished woman is taking a break, you know, for her own well-being, I was like, then I can do it too. So I think repeating what I was saying before about the concept of sharing your experience, it helps you to know that you're not alone. Even, you know, at Christmas it can be an isolating time for some people, and that can be psychologically as well as you know, physically. And so if we can reach out and talk to each other, we'll find out that, like, we're all in the same boat, and actually in the same life raft.
Yes,
Emma.
yes.
So, you know, we're all in it together, and we're a community. And I think that's what I'm trying to reflect on.
I love that. And I'm thinking, if people are finding it hard to you know, if they're not feeling part of a network, I know that kind of student support within universities is really good at making contact with people and putting people in touch with one another. Have you got any other tips of how people might find a support network for them?
Well, I have found it through when we're in sort of online sessions and in training sessions. Some of us have sort of either in the breakout rooms, actually, which I never thought. I'm a little bit of an introvert, and I would sometimes think that maybe breakout rooms weren't for me, like, but I've actually made some lovely friends through them. And, you know, just one person's made a comment that they're feeling a bit unsure about something. If anyone has made that kind of comment, I've reached out to them in the chat and said, you know, if you ever want to talk, here's my number. And as a result of that, and I, you know, a few people talking about it in one particular group, which was nothing to do with well-being, and we ended up building a well-being group just from that one session, which was, I don't know, about getting published or something. So it was, and now we've got an RHUL well-being chat as a result. And
you are so gorgeous.
Don't be afraid to reach out to people, especially, you know, if you're thinking that you might be, if you're somebody who likes to check in regularly with your own mental health, is, you know, always pay it forward, I think. And you'll find that you have a support network waiting for you.
Love it. I love it. And I think that's brilliant advice, isn't it? You know, it's so easy to get a group chat going, isn't it? So yeah, sorry, Rachel, what were you going to say?
No, especially now, it's like I would, you know, I'm a little bit socially anxious. I probably would never have walked up to somebody in person at a conference or a training session. I would have, you know, probably sat there quietly. So it, you know, actually it's one thing that can be said for this very, very unusual time that we're finding ourselves in, that it's created new ways of building friendships. Brilliant.
Thank you so much, both of you. This is the last episode of the season, of season 1. That's season 1 done.
Wow.
And we're going to be back on this. We're going to take a break. Podcast is taking a break for a couple of weeks, and we'll be back at the beginning of January. Thank you to all the guests for the season, and thank you to you for listening. But thank you especially, Rachel and Chloe, for sharing today, and wishing you a really lovely festive season.
You too. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
I'm just going to do my bells again. Thank you.